3D and 5D. What does that actually mean?
We currently exist on the third dimension on the human plane. There's 7 dimensions. The odd dimensions, you can call them the floors. The even dimensions are the bridges, the doorway between the odd dimensions. Heaven would be our 7th dimension. The 5th dimension is a very high frequency dimension where time and space no longer exist. We have much more higher frequency emotions of just love, peace, anxiety doesn't exist. The 3rd dimension is like the material dimension. It's where we currently exist on Earth, the light and the dark. We have the spectrum of emotions. We have love and hate, pain and grief, all of these things. And again, not bad or good. We are in the middle. The 1st dimension is what some people would consider hell. Even dimensions are going to be little portals, doorways to get us from one to the other. We are currently existing on the 3rd dimension. And this isn't just something woo-woo, this is something scientific. A lot of people started waking up around 2020 with COVID. It kind of shook a lot of people awake. You can start to track the Schumann Resonance, which is like the Earth's frequency. Any being or animal that existed on Earth in the far, far past could still have an essence here. For example, dragons are still connected to Earth. I was studying in China last year, and almost all of their mountains are named something dragon. Most of the mountains used to be dragon. They actually were protectors of the cities, and then slowly the spirits of the dragons started to occupy the mountains. There's these islands that are this frequency of a dragon, the shape of a dragon, the essence of the dragons. As the 3rd and the 5th start to shift, there's going to be frequency places on Earth that start to gather 5th dimensional energy and different parts gathering 3rd dimensional energy. As the Earth splits into 2, the 5th dimensional places are going to open a portal and the 3rd dimensional places are going to open a portal. And this is how it's going to shake into 2.
Wow.
A lot of the dragon spirits have been holding these 5th dimensional portals dormant for thousands upon thousands of years. When they were here, these portals were open and this energy was flowing throughout the Earth. So as we shift into the material space of time, these high frequency dragon spirits were no longer able to incarnate on Earth. The Earth's frequency was too dense for them, but they're still guardians and spirits and watchers. And so a lot of them have embodied mounds of land to protect these portals that are soon going to reopen and help draw 5th dimensional frequency people there and use them as a portal as we start to shift.
Hey, beautiful soul. Yes, you. You are beautiful, whether you identify as female, male, trans, alien, fairy, witch, human, daughter, son, mother, sister, brother, grandpa, grandma. You are beautiful, and don't you ever forget to be you to the full. Thank you so much for stopping by and clicking on this episode. It has called you for a reason, and that is because it matches your frequency and your vibration, and there is a message in it for you. Before every episode, I sit in meditation and I ask for those who are meant to benefit from my conversations be guided to it. If you resonate with this episode, please subscribe, like, comment below, and even better, share this episode with another being. Now, when we share our information, it helps to bring consciousness to as many beings as possible. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for spending your time here and working on yourself to find out who you are so that you can shine your light for others and help the consciousness of the planet. Now, without further ado, let's dive into this week's episode. Hey, it's Melissa, and welcome to the Purpose Search podcast, where I discuss all things science, spirituality, and purpose. I hold conversations with people who are incredibly knowledgeable in their field and have found their purpose, which I hope will spark something inside of you to listen to the call of your heart and intuition. We welcome Heather today, who is a psychic and channeler devoted to helping others reconnect with their innate ability to heal and access their intuitive gifts. As a full-time nomad, she's been traveling the world to study diverse healing modalities and spiritual traditions for years. She weaves this knowledge into her work as a teacher, writer, and filmmaker. She is also the co-founder of Innate Wellness, a natural wellness line rooted in earth-based healing. At the core of everything she does is a simple intention: to empower people to become their own healer and reconnect with the magic and divinity within them. Heather, welcome. I'm so excited to dive into our conversation and explore the realm of your psychic gifts. I've learned so much from you when we first met in Bali, and I cannot wait to dive into this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. It is an absolute joy to be here. I'm very excited to hang out, answer your questions, just spend time together.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
thank you for
cannot wait
having
to
me.
dive into your story and your journey because it's such an exciting one. And I think a lot of people will resonate with it.
I'm
But
excited.
first, every episode, I start with a short breath exercise to drop us into the body and get present with the conversation as we come onto screen. So today, please do not do this if you're driving, but I invite you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable to do so. But you can also take a soft gaze in front of you if that feels more comfortable. So today, we're going to breathe in peace and we're going to breathe out anything that doesn't serve us. So we're going to let it all go in our out breath. And I want you to imagine that the peace is coming in through the color of white. And we're going to breathe it in through our nose, inhaling. And we're going to breathe out through the nose, but we're going to breathe it all the way down our body, past the lungs, past the body, down the legs, into the toes, breathing in peace. And breathing out anything that doesn't serve us all the way down into our toes, into the earth. We'll do this 2 more times, breathing in peace through that white light. Down the body, down the legs, down the toes, into the ground, and breathing out what no longer serves us. Last time, breathing in peace. And breathing out through the nose, down the body, down the legs, down the toes, into the ground. Letting go of what no longer serves us. When you're ready, bring the attention to your fingers and your toes and open your eyes, ready to come back to screen. Thank you so much, Heather.
Thank you.
Now, I love to start my conversations with what do you do, but I reframe it to what sparks joy in you and what lights you up.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful question. So many things, honestly. The things that spark the most joy for me are definitely writing, filmmaking, teaching, especially about topics that I'm passionate about. Some of the main ones really being empowering others on their own journey. I think a lot of us are here in this podcast, even because we have spiritual knowings and we have spiritual intuitions and gifts and a calling, this kind of internal calling that's guiding us forward that maybe we decided not to listen to for a long time and just recently started to listen to, or maybe you've been listening to the whole lives. But that calling is such a powerful experience. And, I think we can get really, our past can get diluted a lot because we think that we need others to heal us or teach us or guide us or, what did you do? And that kind of thing. And while that's also powerful because we're meant to be in community, we're meant to help and support each other. I try to help to encourage others to really not give their power away, to really let everyone know that you are your own healer. It's proven that the sound of your voice is the perfect frequency to heal you. And what a great example of this, that you are your own healer, you are your own psychic, all of these are gifts that you have within yourself. So yeah, I like to write books about these, teach classes, make films about them, traveling, studying other spiritual modalities and cultures, and bring these messages to the individual to use in their own way, their own empowerment.
That was such a beautiful answer. And I
Thank you.
resonate so much with that because
I figured
I
you
love
would.
traveling. Yes, I love traveling too. And that's how we met. And it was so beautiful. And I learned so much from you. And I love what you said about not needing someone else to heal you. And I feel like that's what we spoke about just before we hit record for this podcast, is that when we first met, I felt like I was needing to learn from everyone else. And that's my one line in human design, of like diving deep into learning about everything, which I feel is serving me for my purpose now. But at the time, it was from a limiting belief of that I needed other people and needed information and knowledge to heal myself.
Yeah.
But actually, what I realized during integrating all of those experiences is that actually I am the greatest healer for myself. And so thank you for sharing that, and for empowering others to do that, because I really, really resonate with that too. And that's also the message I want to go out and get out there to the world. My next question for you is, what's your star sign and profile in human design? Because I love this. This is a fascination of mine. One of the deep rabbit holes that I went down in Bali when we first met was learning about my human design and learning about everyone else's. It was just
Yeah.
fascinating for me. So would you mind telling us yours?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely think it's a very fascinating subject. I am a Pisces sun, Taurus rising, Aquarius moon. In human design, I'm a 1-3 pure generator, and I'm a vessel of love is my incarnation cross. So
That
yeah.
that vessel of love is an interesting one, because it's one that I recently discovered, because it's
Yeah.
actually my grandma's one
Oh wow,
as
beautiful.
well. And it's, yeah, it's a the purpose of that cross is to be the living embodiment of love, and the true embodiment of love for life itself, living in the present moment and being alive in the body. And by being that beacon of love, you are that's when you are that beacon of love, you are fully present in your body, and you are able to shine that light so that other people are able to see that love within themselves. So I find this wonderful, and also fascinating with the 1-3, which is also similar to mine, but how embodying that self-love through trial and error experiences. So the three being the trial and error, the three line. And so that life path, um yeah, when you're loving yourself and living through those physical earthly experiences, then, and those mistakes, the rejections, they're redirecting you to where actually you can love yourself more, which I feel is so fascinating. So that's a really cool life
Yeah.
cross. I love that one. How does that
Yeah.
resonate with you?
100%. I agree with what you said. Richard Rudd, the creator of the Gene Keys or the channeler of the Gene Keys, he talks about, whatever your life's work or whatever some of your main gene keys are, you're going to um, better bet to believe that you're going to experience the opposite, right? And that's kind of like the purpose of diving you into that deeper. And so, with the incarnation cross of the vessel of love, that also makes my life's work in the Gene Keys 25, which is the Gene Key of universal love. Very, very similar, if same names, very similar themes here. And I find it such a powerful journey because, you know, whatever you've come here to learn about in this life is a gift to ourselves, right? It's a gift from our soul to us in this moment, or our soul before we were incarnated to us in this moment. And we're most likely going to learn about it through trial and error, or maybe I shouldn't say trial and error. That's more specific to the three human design, but through shadows and gifts, through blessings and challenges. And so, I've lived a lot of different experiences in my life around the concept of love, self love, community love, partner love, work love, all of these different people in our lives. And this is kind of what I was saying earlier about I truly, truly believe that one of the purposes of life is to experience life, is to just genuinely experience life. This is I believe, a dimension, the third dimension, a dimension of light and dark. Okay. We can even
Mm,
see it reflected in how much of the day is sun and how much of the day is, or the night is moon, right? I really truly believe that everything, the secrets of the universe are just right out there in the open for us, right in front of our
mm-hmm,
faces. And so, this being a dimensional plane of the light and dark, we are just here to experience it. We're here to experience the full spectrum, whatever that looks like. And so, whenever I'm having a challenge, whether that's with love or anything, I'm just reminding myself that this whole place is, one of my friend calls it a video game. And I truly believe that, right? It's like, this is
Yeah.
really just for us to experience and learn from the full spectrum of the
Mhm.
shadows to the light. And so I think love is one of the biggest gifts to get to experience the full spectrum of that, which of course I would say that, right? This is a big part of my purpose. But I also think that one of the main points of life, not just to experience the full spectrum, but is to do it together. We're here on this plane that has others that we're able to coexist with, that we're able to be in
Mm.
relationship with. This is why I believe, whether we believe in the story of Adam or Eve or not, but how the idea of how we are one of non-duality, that we nothing is separate, we are all one, but then we're just here in the third dimension simply to experience each other, to experience ourselves, to be separate, even though we're not, even though I do truly believe that it's an illusion. And so what a beautiful gift to get to support each other in community, to get to sit
Mm.
here with this podcast with you and have this conversation, the people that are listening, listening to your other podcasts, all these different breadcrumbs of just the ways that we get to experience each other. And so I feel like, the vessel of love is a huge part of everything I do in my work, but I also think it's just a huge part of humanity, right? And everybody gets the blessing of experiencing.
Mm. I love the fact that in your chart, the vessel of love has, so you have all the four gates of the love, and that's why it's the vessel of love channel, I think. And I'm not an expert in human design, but I've dived into a lot of it and have a lot of knowledge on it. And so I find it just fascinating that all four of them are defined and they're lit
Mm,
up. So that's just a really cool thing. I find
thank
that
you.
really cool. I want to dive into your journey now and where your psychic abilities and the channeling came in for you. So I know that you've been psychic your whole life, but you didn't realize it at the time. So can you just explain like where that first started, maybe some experiences that you had? If someone maybe feels that maybe they've had those sorts of experiences, but they're not sure if they're psychic or not, like definitely I am going through some sort of psychic awakening at the moment, like with the stories I shared with you.
Mm,
That I'm integrating at the moment and trying to understand what that means for me. I think that would be a really great place to start.
yeah, absolutely. So I genuinely believe that we are all psychic. And I genuinely believe that this shift that's happening right now at the frequency of the earth, that it's awakening in waves people's psychic abilities. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean that, you don't have one friend who has no idea what being an empath is like, and he's the opposite of that. That doesn't mean that there's not spectrums to everything. I think that we all have different levels of specific psychic gifts. And I do think that we all have the ability to awaken those in our life, but that doesn't mean we will or that we want to. Some people choose not to. Um, and so, from my experience, I have been a psychic my whole life. I've had experiences my whole life. But like you said, I quite literally didn't know I was a psychic until about my early to mid 20s. Um, and
Wow.
now I'm aware that my most of my family on my mother's side have all been psychics as well. My mom, some of my siblings have really strong gifts and have had their whole life. My grandma, my great grandma, like my mother's side is all really powerful psychics. However, nobody ever talked about this. Nobody throughout that whole ancestry ever used the word psychic, ever told each other.
Mm.
It was something I had to dig into and slowly find. And I had been having psychic experiences throughout my whole life, but to the point when I now have memories that have been unlocked within me around like 3, 4, 5 years old, seeing beings and being
Wow.
terrified. However, those memories actually just recently unlocked for me. I was in a session with my therapist and I ended up crying because I have slowly gone on this journey of realizing and discovering
Mm.
I was psychic and embodying that. But what happens, I think, to most people is that fear and doubt kind of black out a lot of our psychic experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, what had happened when I was really young, 3 to 6, and I was starting to really have a lot of experiences, was I got extremely shamed. I started telling people that I trusted what was happening, and I was getting shamed. I was getting made fun of. Or, my mother, who did believe me, but had never spoken about it before, was completely terrified when I started
Mm.
speaking about these things. So I started seeing that I was causing people horror or, was being doubted, was being called a liar, these things, right? So you're having these psychic experiences, but you don't know what's happening. We didn't have the
Mm-hmm.
language when we were children that, I'm
Mm-hmm.
seeing things, there's shadows, things are talking to me. And so if you do have the nerve to speak up about it, you're probably getting heavily shamed. Not to mention that we have ancestral trauma around being intuitive in general, especially women. We could have past life trauma of being burned at the stake as witches for just simply enjoying herbalism, so there's a lot of shame. There's collective conscious shame that is really kind of pushing these things down. So what I find from my journey and for a lot of people that I've worked with is that they at some point got shamed by others, or the experiences created so much fear and terror in themselves that they almost black out the memories from really happening. Maybe they have little crumbs of memories here and there of, oh, that one time when I was like half asleep when I was 8 years old and I thought I saw something. You have these little sprinkles, but you're like, oh no, you almost completely convince yourself that those never happened or that they were dreams, or they're so buried in your subconscious that you're not even aware of them, right? That's why it's called the subconscious. But so on my journey, for me, it became this experience where I slowly started having more and more experiences in my teens, my later teens, and I was seeing a lot of things. And I just thought I was seeing things because I grew up in a haunted house. I was like, oh, the reason I see things and you don't is just because I live in a haunted house and you don't. Like, I really could not fathom the feeling of being special or unique. I was like, and this is where the doubt came in. I was just like, before it was just terror to disappoint anyone I loved, or terror at what could be happening if I was actually seeing these things, if these things were real. And then it turned into doubt. I'm not special. There's, these things, like I want them to exist, but, they don't. This is the real world, all of these things. So fear and doubt really kind of consume a lot of our gifts throughout our lives. And then eventually in my early to mid 20s, things started happening that were just so profound, so incredible. I had no explanation, that eventually I was like, I kind of had a breaking point. Honestly, it was really a difficult experience for me where I almost had to admit this part of my identity that I've been denying the whole time. And it really felt kind of like a riff in who I was, because part of me always knew that this existed, but I could really never fathom it. So it was really just buried deep. And as these experiences that kept proving themselves time and time again, and I mean really proving themselves, they had to really like just smack me around a couple of times very strongly to really get me to actually pay attention to them. It really started to shake me to the core. It's like to shake me to the core of my identity, right? And so I was really blessed to have people around me. Once I started speaking up about this, telling like a best friend and telling my boyfriend at the time, they were like, "Yeah, we know you're psychic." Like, and I was just so supported by them that
Wow.
that was honestly probably the biggest gift, because
Mm.
they started asking me to practice on them. and I'm like, I don't know, what
Wow.
does that even mean? What does it even mean to
Mm.
practice on you? Um, but so not only was I still seen and loved and accepted, which was like the biggest part for me that I needed in order to explore these abilities, but then I also had somebody who believed me and wanted me to experiment with what this could do. And so then tried to start without knowing what I was doing. I started doing psychic readings on them. But I was just, closing my eyes, trying to see what I could see, talk to what I could talk to. And we just had profound experiences after profound experiences after profound
Wow.
experiences. And it was really in those containers, like with that best friend and with that partner, that really allowed me to blossom
Mm.
and allowed me to start to figure out what's the physical sensation when I start to get a vision. What is that that level of discernment between imagining something or talking to something? What is so I really just started to get to know my abilities to the point now that when I do teach classes, and I know you've experienced this, Melissa, one of my
Mm.
favorite things to do is partner work
Yes.
because I I can't teach you how to have gifts. Those are all going to be within you. And in my classes, a lot of them are around psychic gifts and connecting to yours, right? But I'm not teaching you how to have the gift. The gift is yours. All I'm doing is giving you guidelines of how you could access it, what the physical sensations could feel like, and
Mm-hmm.
then putting you in a partner and making you guys practice together. And that's
Mm.
exactly was my experience. I got put with somebody and made to practice. And the most incredible things happen because this person that you don't even know, you start channeling for them. And then before you know it, they're sobbing because, you're channeling their grandmother and you don't even know this person. And how did you know these things about them? And what a sense of
Getting
validation.
goosebumps.
So that was kind of my
Oh,
journey.
yeah, what a wonderful journey you've been on. And yeah, I was just actually coming back to a memory of when I was in one of your channeling workshops
Oh,
that you held for us in person in Bali, which was such a wonderful experience. It was pouring down with rain. I was there like cleansing my crystal in the rain.
I remember that.
um, and I remember part of my psyche, my ego was thinking, am I really channeling? Like, what is going on? But you're right. The lady who was in front of me, she started sobbing because I had channeled her, I think it was her father at the time. Because I saw two children who looked like boys.
Mm,
And she said that in her childhood, everyone mistaked her for a boy because she had short hair, but it was actually her and her brother, blonde hair. And then I saw this almost Californian palm tree. And I was like, I don't know why, but Hotel California is coming into my brain. And I said, like, can I sing it for you? So I sang it to her, and she was like, that's my father's favorite song. And I was just like, whoa, what have I just done? Um,
oof.
and she was, yeah, and that happened in one of your sessions. So yeah, thank you for doing that because you've unlocked that in me. And yeah, it was wild.
What if your team's biggest breakthrough came from within? At InnerVox, we create tailored workshops for corporate companies that unlock confidence, communication, and collaboration. We're not your typical training. Our workshops are dynamic, experiential, laughter filled, and designed to create lasting transformation. We use creative techniques, performance psychology, and real human connection. We help your people build trust and express themselves and perform at their absolute best by listening to their intuition and their inner voice. Because when your people grow, your business also grows. Visit innervox.co.uk/corporate today and click the link in the description below. If someone is coming to channeling or being psychic for the first time, can you explain what does it mean to be a psychic versus a medium, and what is a channeler?
Yeah, great question. So a psychic is kind of like an all encompassing term of having gifts to kind of connect with otherworldly things, the other side of the realms, the spirit realm, these things. When I say psychic, I'm usually referring to one of the different clairs. So clairvoyance, that you can see, that you can clairaudience, you can hear things, you can kind of project yourself through time. There's a lot of different psychic gifts. There's honestly dozens upon dozens of gifts. A channeler is when you're going to specifically be letting something speak through you. And so it's usually something you can technically let anything speak through you. So it can be a ghost, it can be something of a high frequency, low frequency that can come and encompass your body, take over your body, and speak through you. I personally don't recommend letting anything. I only channel high frequency beings, spirit beings. But then they're literally coming into my body, their energy, and they're using my body to speak. And you'll even notice my mannerism shifts, all of these things. So that's channeling. A medium is usually more looked at as somebody who's speaking to the dead. But again, everybody can kind of have a little bit of their own definition of these things. So a medium is more somebody usually who works with ghosts or helping people cross over if they've died or helping somebody connect with their dead ancestor or loved one. But sometimes mediums will consider themselves. That doesn't mean they're just speaking to the dead. They can also sometimes speak to other things, and sometimes channelers will also feel as if they're channeling the dead. So um, they can kind of cross the definitions, but a psychic I would consider more the different gifts: seeing, hearing, taste, touch, these things. But you can also call yourself a psychic as a channeler or a medium.
Which of those ones do you experience then? Do you taste things?
I do not know. So not necessarily. I think that just like we have our senses, these things can kind of show up in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And you can actually see in my human design, I was sitting at a cafe one time, and this man I made friends with just that day, and he was like, "Oh, like, wow, look at your human design. Are you a psychic?" And I was like, "Yeah, actually." He was like, "Oh, can we book a session? Like, let's book a session right now." And I was like, "All right, let's do it." Just by looking at my human design, he could tell,
Wow.
because all of my channels, all of my what's the word I'm looking for?
Centers?
Parts, centers.
Key
Thank you.
centers?
Are all open on the outside, and
Mm-hmm.
so I can sense in so many different flavors around me. And so the ones that I mainly use are going to be clairvoyance, sight, channeling, and in some form, I would call it telepathy. But I find language to be a funny thing. It can really help us understand, but it's also so restrictive, right? And so when I'm using my abilities or in a session with somebody, my main is going to be sight. And then I will be speaking to these things that are around us, these spirit guides, these ancestors, angels. And that's more when I'm calling it telepathy, because I can, speak with my mind or with my words out, but they really give you the whole message at once. And this is, again, when I teach in my classes, this is how I teach about that slight shift of your normal sense to your psychic
Mm.
sense. If I'm thinking, or if I'm listening to somebody's words, I'm getting one word at a time that's kind of going across my mind. If I'm thinking, I get one word at a time as well for my sentence. That psychic sense of when you're getting that telepathy hit, that knowing, you're getting the whole sentence all at once, or you're getting a whole paragraph all at once. You get kind of like a download where the whole message comes to you. And so there's this slight shift. But so that's what I would call telepathy. And then channeling, I'll let like high frequency beings come through me and come into my body and speak to the person uh, through me. Those are my main ones.
How do you discern what's a high frequency and a like high vibration and low vibration, high frequency, low frequency being that's coming through you? Because I know you said that you don't channel low frequency
Mhm.
beings. If
Yeah,
someone's trying this for the first time, how would they do that?
wonderful question. Honestly, the main way that I do it is through my intuition, is through the way it feels. Okay, so if I have any sort of doubt about this being, I'm not going to let it into my body. If it's a high frequency being, I am going to feel it in my body, especially through my chakras. It's going to light me up. It's going to feel like it's lifting me up. It's going to feel like it's nourishing me. Okay. And so when I channel a being like that, I am actually receiving a huge amount of energy. Sometimes these beings are almost too high frequency that I can't physically hold them for very long. But they're usually giving me a gift by coming through my body because they're charging me, they're lifting me up. I usually feel excited and energized afterwards versus the opposite. If there's a low frequency being around me, you're going to, once you start to kind of allow yourself to connect more with your gifts, and not just you, Melissa, I know that you experience this a lot in general, but other people too, if they start to allow themselves to connect more with the beings that are around them, they'll start to kind of feel like a tuning fork. They'll feel like, oh, that feels, oh, something came in that feels good and it feels like it's helping me. Oh, something came in that kind of gave me the heebie jeebies and it feels a little dense, feels a little heavy, or maybe I'm all of a sudden really anxious, or you know what, all day my brain has just been going so fast. I don't really know why have I been thinking so fat? Like, why am I so anxious? These are usually clues as to there's a lower frequency being around us. And they're not necessarily bad. It's just like I was saying earlier, we live in a realm, the third dimension of shadow and light. Okay. So just like a mosquito would bite you, I don't like mosquitoes, but a mosquito is the only insect that pollinates chocolate. It has a purpose in the ecosystem. And
I didn't
so,
know that.
yeah, we wouldn't have chocolate without
Thank
mosquitoes.
you, mosquitoes.
Thank you. And so, I don't necessarily love low frequency beings all the time. I don't necessarily want them around me, but they still have a purpose in our ecosystem. We still exist in a plane where they're supposed to be. And so, the way that you want to kind of intuit whether or not it's a high or a low is really trust yourself. How does your body feel around it? The other thing that I would just clarify is that I'm sure we've all had moments where we are making a decision about something that is known or something that is unknown. And that can feel like such a scary choice, right? Because the unknown instantly, chemically in our body, releases the fear response. It is a chemical reaction to the unknown is fear, right? And so the more we're getting to know our psychic gifts and the more we're opening to things, that is so much unknown around us. And so also just kind of be discerning about if something comes in and wants to connect with you. Do you feel afraid because it's unknown and it's new and you don't know what it is? Or do you feel afraid because it feels heavy and it shouldn't be there? Or because you don't want it near you? And what I would say is just take a deep breath. No matter what, nothing can hurt you unless you let it hurt you. Just take a deep breath and just ask yourself, does this feel unknown? Or does this genuinely just not feel right with me? And maybe you don't even want to answer. Maybe you just want to send it away. No problem. There's no right or wrong. But just be aware that, you know, your first time experiencing an angel, well, maybe that's a bad example because angels feel pretty, whoa, like hallelujah, like they feel very bright. So, but like a being from another planet, the first time you experience one of them, they can really feel unknown. They're very unique feeling. And so you're kind of like, whoa, this feels new. I don't know if I like this. But if you breathe and take a moment, you might find out actually that they're a spirit guide of yours. That's just a different flavor of being. That you've never, that's not human, right? So it's not something that we're quite as used to feeling. Um, yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, and I think that kind of answered one more of my questions, which was about spirit guides
Mm,
and them being different beings,
mm,
which I guess my 3D mind was like, oh, they're just all like people I know,
mm.
but that's not true, right?
No, that's not how I usually see spirit guides. So a spirit guide can be a soul that you have incarnated with before. or they could be a part of your soul family where you've incarnated with them many, 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 many times, but they decided to stay on the spirit realm this time for whatever reason. Maybe it was just to be your guide, or maybe they have other things they're doing and they decided to also be your guide while you're incarnated in the human form. But I'm here to tell you, in case you didn't know this, and not again, not for you, Melissa, but for just the listeners too, that you have most likely had many other lives besides human lives on other planets and in other existence, maybe as animals, these different things. And so your guides, we are truly all, at least how I see it, one. We're all one consciousness. So at the end of the day, your guides are appearing to you in a way that would most resonate with you or is telling you something. So, for example, my primary spirit guide is an incarnation of Lakshmi. So she appears as a Hindu woman. And this was before I even knew what Hinduism really was, who Lakshmi was, any of this. So she, by appearing to me this way, really made me curious about Hinduism and start to look up all the different women that could look like her and then start to study Lakshmi. And it just took me on this beautiful journey, right? I also have a Native American guide. I also have a guide that is, their skin is all blue and they look like they're from another planet. And so it doesn't mean that, no, not all my guides are human looking. They're appearing to me either in a form where we had a really prominent life together, or they're appearing to me in a form that is really important for my life in this life to know about, to learn about, or because they're literally trying to get me to study something, to learn about something.
I'm feeling that these spirit guides, I just had a podcast where I found out my grandma was one of my spirit guides. And the questions that I was asking was my friend Tia, who was using dowsing rods to connect and channel, but they wouldn't channel through her. They and for me, the reason why they didn't do that was because I wouldn't have believed her. And the dowsing rods then went to the yes. So that was an interesting, really awakening experience for me in that moment. But I guess when I listened back to that podcast, what I realized was I only asked who my specific spirit guides were. I didn't ask, say, like, are my spirit guides of different beings, or are they so, but I didn't really have that question in my mind to ask that at that point. So I guess, like, every podcast I do, I'm learning more and more about myself, so it's great. It's not just helping others, it's also helping me, which I love. And I think that, this goes back to what we were saying about the reawakening across the planet, and that people are seeing and sensing more things the more that they experience, the more that they hear, the more that we talk about things, the more that we talk with others. I had an experience where I said to somebody that I see this in the room, and she then started crying because then she felt like she was going crazy this whole time because she'd been seeing these things. And so I was almost awakening her and she was awakening that gift in me, both at the same time, which was so beautiful. Now, you have said before that you felt that this reawakening across the planet has been happening, but you've been told this by beings, is that correct?
Yes, yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about, like, what happened in that moment, like when you found that out? Who were these beings that told you this?
Yeah. Great question. So you're definitely going to be in for some stories for that. So I have had a long period of my life now where I've given psychic readings to other people, which I think honestly is as much of a gift for me as it is for them. Um, because there's always a reason that we're brought together, right? And I think that they tell me things through their own experiences as well. And so, one of the most prominent that I can speak of is this mantis being, this man who had, imagine a praying mantis, the insect, right? But imagine this is a very large, benevolent, fifth dimensional other planet being that was explaining how our current society is like a butterfly. And the third dimension is the caterpillar. We built a structure to hold and support us out of our third dimensional material, which becomes the chrysalis, right? The caterpillar's chrysalis. And that third dimensional material has to hold us as we dissolve. The third dimension dissolves within it. So all these really awful, tragic things that we're experiencing right now, collapses of economies, potential wars, already war, all of these things are all the third dimensional things dissolving. And the fifth dimensional things are starting to be birthed, right? The butterfly is the fifth dimension, but it's still being held in this third dimensional chrysalis. And we have to continue to be held in that as like the fifth dimension continues to grow its wings until we can hatch out of it. And that'll be the moment once we hatch, that'll be the moment of the third and the fifth shifting. So these praying mantis beings are some of the main ones that I've talked a lot about the shift with me. They're very benevolent beings that have been with humanity through all of time, guiding our entire timeline. This shift from the third to the fifth has been one of the plans for humanity and for the planet Earth the entire time. And so there's been a lot of beautiful spirit beings or beings of other dimensions, higher frequency dimensions, that have been helping and guiding humanity the entire time. One of them being these praying mantis beings. There's also a lot of beings on Earth and spirits that have been here for thousands and thousands of years. So just like there can be an ancestor of, ancient Egypt that could be still connected with the earth, right? Any sort of being or animal that has existed on earth can also, in the far, far past, could still have an essence here. For example, dragons. Dragons are a big one that really become a part of the land and are still connected to earth. It's really fascinating. I was studying in China last year, and almost all of their mountains are named something dragon. And I started to realize that the ancient Chinese folklore is that most of the dragons or most of the mountains used to be dragons. And they actually were protectors of the cities. And then slowly the spirits of the dragons started to occupy the mountains. And so this I actually find super fascinating because I've actually traveled to Greece, really high frequency places in Greece, and experienced the same thing. Whereas there's these islands that are this frequency of a dragon, the shape of a dragon, the essence of the dragon. And so I've actually, and surprising to myself, this was not something I had planned. This was not something I was looking for. Throughout my life, I have been called to different places around the world and by my own intuitive calling. Okay. And so then I go to these places, and I mean weird places, the middle of nowhere mountain range in China, a tiny little island in Greece that no one's ever heard of. I go there and I sit with these places. And what I found is that these places usually have a dragon, like a spirit dragon that is embodying and holding this place. And so I'll tell you like one specific story that last summer I'm in Greece, and I'm living on this smaller island that not many people really go and visit. And on the edge of it, across the ocean, there's an even smaller island. And I'm just like, I know I'm supposed to go there. I know I'm supposed to go there. So I hire a boat, with a couple friends, we go, and we are visiting this tiny little rock formation. It's not even necessarily big enough to be an island. And I start channeling this beautiful white dragon, and I'm seeing it, and it's gorgeous. And what it's telling me is that the earth it's like if you can imagine an energetic grid going around the planet, right? Just like a normal grid, like a checkered grid that kind of if you think of the longitude and latitude lines, right? It's like a grid that goes around the Earth. Imagining that. And then there's these points where it meets, right? And in these points are these high frequency places. And what's happening as the third and the fifth start to shift is that there's going to be frequency places on Earth that start to gather fifth dimensional energy, and then different parts of this grid, frequency places that are gathering third dimensional energy. And so, what's going to happen as the Earth actually splits into two is that it's almost as if the fifth dimensional places are going to start to open a portal, and the third dimensional places are going to start to open a portal. And this is how it's going to like shake into two. Okay. And so,
Wow.
what will happen as these fifth dimensional places start to grow is that they'll be checkered around the Earth, just like the third dimensional places will be checkered around the Earth. You'll start to be called to these places, these high frequency places. You'll start to feel drawn to them, or you'll start to feel drawn to a third dimensional place. And there's really no right or wrong answer here. I really truly believe that our souls came here to experience what they were meant to experience. We are all one. We are all one experience. At least that's how I see it. Again, I don't think we're all meant to have the same truth. I just think that that's my truth. And so there's nothing necessarily to be afraid of. Our soul chose whether to go to the fifth or the third. Some people chose to be on the cusp to decide whether or not they were going to go to the fifth or the third in the last minute. Some people came to help people come into the fifth. Some people came to help people stay in the third. My point being is that you'll start to feel drawn to either like a fifth or a third dimensional place. And then souls will start to conjugate in these places. And the fifth dimensional places will become like a portal where it'll take you into the fifth dimension, into that Earth's experience of the fifth. And the third dimensional places will be the same thing, kind of a portal that'll keep you in the third dimension there. I could get really deep into this, but I'll stay on the top layer back to my dragon story. So this beautiful white dragon is telling me this. It's telling me how the Earth is going to shift in this way, and that it is actually sitting on top of a fifth dimensional portal. And that a lot of the dragon spirits have been kind of holding these fifth dimensional portals dormant for thousands upon thousands of years. What was explaining to me was that the way time works is a circle, right? It's not linear, as we probably all know at this point. And not only is it a circle, but it's a bit of a pendulum that kind of goes back and forth. And so we exist either in like a very heavy spiritual side of the pendulum or a very heavy material side of the pendulum. And then our time on earth, it just goes back and forth, spiritual, material, spiritual, material. So we've had moments in the distant past where we were extremely spiritual. We were very connected. We were, not necessarily of the fifth dimension, but we were like Atlantis, all of these things. We were working with really high frequency experiences. And then Egypt, we were kind of still doing these things. And then we came and we went all the way more into the material, which is where we've been. But we're starting to shift now back into the spiritual. So dragons were more of the spiritual time. And when they were here, these portals were open and this energy was flowing throughout the earth. We were a much higher frequency plane, even though we still weren't of the fifth dimension. We haven't ever been of the fifth dimension, still a much higher frequency experience. And so as we shift into the material space of time, these high frequency dragon spirits were no longer able to incarnate on earth. The earth's frequency was too dense for them. They were not able to be born, but they're still kind of guardians and spirits and watchers. And so a lot of them have embodied like mounds of land to protect these portals that are soon going to reopen and help draw fifth dimensional frequency people there and use them as a portal as we start to shift. So I know that was a long answer to your question, but I could go on for hours
We
about
could
these
do a whole
stories.
podcast on that, and I feel like my mind has just been blown. When you say these grid like points that cross over, do you mean things like ley lines? Is that what you mean?
You can call them ley lines, yes. I think that, again, language sometimes can be a bit limiting, that like
Mm-hmm.
ley lines are probably the best way to describe it. If you showed me an exact map of, ley lines around the earth, could I guarantee that these points are exactly that? No. But I do believe that there are also energetic ley lines moving around the earth. I would not be surprised if they lined up exactly that way. I just haven't actually looked at it myself.
That would be really fascinating
Yeah,
to know
yeah.
if it does. I'm gonna quiz you on that
Cool.
in a couple of weeks.
All right, let's do it.
So with these, okay, so we've touched on a lot there about 3D and 5D. If someone's hearing this for the first time and they're still listening to us at this point of the podcast, what does that actually mean by 3D and 5D? Because I think to someone who's just like maybe not heard these terms before,
Mhm.
um, how can we define that in our language?
Wonderful question. So, to simplify it as much as I can, we currently exist on the third dimension on the human plane. How I see it, and a lot of other seers and channelers see it, is that there's 7 dimensions and maybe more, but let's just stick with the main 7 right now, okay? And so the odd dimensions are kind of where you can call them the floors. And then the even dimensions are the bridges, the doorway between the odd dimensions. So we've got the first, and then the second is a bridge, the third, the fourth is a bridge, the fifth, the sixth is the bridge, and then the seventh. The seventh is like saying heaven. Okay. So heaven would be our 7th dimension. And then the 5th dimension is a very high frequency dimension where time and space no longer exist. We have much more higher frequency emotions of just love, peace, these things. Anxiety doesn't exist. And then the 3rd dimension is like the material dimension. So that's where we currently exist on Earth,
Mm.
of the light and the dark. We have the spectrum of emotions. We have love and hate, pain and grief, all of these things. And again, not bad or good, just we are in the middle. So we are kind of experiencing the whole, all of from 1 to 7, right? Or not all of it, but a lot of it. And then the first dimension is what some people would consider hell. Um, and then again, the even dimensions are going to be little portals, doorways to get us from one to the other. So we are currently existing on the 3rd dimension. And this isn't just something, woo woo. This is something scientific. You can do some research on it. You will see that we are currently existing on the 3rd. And so, what a lot of channelers, seers, people that are going through awakenings, these things, you've probably noticed that a lot of people around you started waking up around 2020, right? With with COVID, it kind of shook a lot of people awake. Well, also, you can start to track the Schumann resonance, which is like the Earth's frequency around that time. She was also making huge shifts, huge moments of peaks, ebbs, and flows in her frequency. Okay. So, you know, I personally don't believe that COVID was just, oh, we randomly got a plague at the same time. No, it was all kind of meant to be, and we're affecting each other. And so through this huge wave of people waking up and starting asking, these questions, what is my purpose? I feel like I see spirits, or I feel like I can connect with otherworldly things, or I feel like I have spirit guides. All of these awakenings have been stemming a lot from that Schumann frequency, that Earth's frequency starting to move and shift. And her frequency has been moving and shifting because she is quite literally raising her frequency. She is no longer just existing on the 3rd dimension. She's starting to pop into the 4th and the 5th dimension as well. And you can literally track this again with the Schumann frequency. And so as we start to vibrate with the earth on a higher frequency, she can literally shift her dimensional plane. And we can get into a really long conversation about what that looks like. and what's going to happen and all those kind of questions. But I don't know if a lot of that is known for a lot of people, right? We all have guests and things we can intuit about it. But when I'm saying the third and the fifth, I'm saying the third as we currently exist on, and the fifth as the earth is being even tracked to start to shift into. But again, that fourth dimension is a bridge between the third and the fifth. So she's actually kind of coexisting on the third and the fourth at the same time. You'll get little glimpses of really high frequency days where you're like, wow, everything's just so divine and serendipitous. And then you'll kind of get glimpses of really third dimensional days where you're like, oh, I just feel so heavy today. Like my body, the world, the energy of the world feels so heavy. And it's because we're quite literally, the earth is moving between the third, fourth, and fifth dimension because she's in the process of shifting to the fifth dimension. Um, and that's really waking a lot of people up.
I also didn't know about the bridges in between 3, 5, and 7, and so thank you for explaining that. That made a lot of sense. Um, how did you come about all of this knowledge? I know you're a 1-3 in human design and you love to dive deep. Was it partially wisdom? Is it, as you say, these downloads that came when you
Mm.
channeled? You've said, some about the dragons and the praying mantis beings that you've experienced. Um, you've also been told as well that this is your purpose by beings. Like, can
Mm.
you explain like how this is just so innate for you?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely been a really long journey. It's been a long journey of going through my own awakening and my own discovery. It's been a mixture of a lot of studying. So at this point, I've been traveling the world for years, and I've kind of gone to like almost each continent to find different cultures and different religions and almost study from each of them. Study at least as many as I possibly could have experienced. So sitting with shamans, sitting with tribes that have been around for thousands of years, and listening to them, hearing their insights, sitting with
Mm.
mentors. So a lot of studying, a lot of traveling, a lot of deep into the, you know, jungles of Peru and Colombia and all of these places, and on top of the mountains, and then with the Shifus in China, into Egypt, Ethiopia, all of these different places. Um, Also a lot of my gifts. So I think I didn't even personally realize how much I was going to learn by offering sessions. And I can really see how that was a huge part of my journey. And when I say sessions, I mean psychic readings, because each of us are so unique, right? We are a
Mm-hmm.
snowflake. And so once you start to connect with your own guides and you start to learn about your own past lives and all of these things, it's just a beautiful snowflake of so many details and so much learnings, okay? Well, now imagine reading hundreds if not thousands of other people's snowflakes. And so there's just so much information that I've
Mm.
collected by doing readings for other people and by talking to their angels and their higher guides and their higher selves and seeing their past lives, and to the point that where sometimes I'm like, okay, this is more than I actually need to know. There was a point in my life where I wanted to know it all. I was very insatiable and hungry for the wisdom. And then I've come to a point in my life where I truly believe the human plane is the plane of forgetting. Our souls know all the questions that you have about your guides and your purpose and your past life. Your soul knows all of that. And the moment you die, you will remember all of that. But you actually came here to forget. And there's something so pure and beautiful about that. It's like a dream. To have the most miraculous dream, you have to go to sleep and to just really honor that not knowing. And so I've tried to step more into honoring the unknown, and I will definitely, doesn't matter how many places I've traveled, people I've studied, books I've read, readings I've given, I will also be the first to admit that I know nothing. Okay? None of us, there's so much happening. It's so complex. How can we all truly know anything? And I hope that, we really can see that as the gift that it is and the freedom that it is and it's meant to be. Um, yeah.
I love what you say about not knowing anything and you know nothing. And it's such a humbling experience for me to witness, because we are often always scrolling and searching for something and wanting to know more and be seen as knowing enough. And there's often a limiting belief or a conditioning that is keeping us trapped in that frequency. And for me, when I listen to other podcasts and people who are so intensely gifted and with their wisdom and the way that they communicate and speak this knowledge to other people, it's become more and more evident to me that the ones that I resonate with are the ones that also say that they know nothing, because we all know everything within us.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
for someone to say, you should follow me, you should buy my course, you should come to this thing, or you should have a session with me and I will heal you. No, that does not run true within my body. And I think past Melissa would have been like, help me, help me, help me. I don't feel whole, because I didn't know that I needed to experience that to get to a point now to be like, no, I can heal myself.
Absolutely.
And you can heal yourself. If you're listening to this, everyone has that gift within them to heal themselves. Maybe you feel called to listen to this podcast because it's awakening something within you that you already know, that's making you and allowing you to remember something. As we said earlier, we are all, there's a reason why we get attracted to certain peoples. They're there to teach us lessons.
Yeah.
So I loved what you said about that. So thank you
Yeah.
for bringing that up.
Yeah.
If someone is disconnected with their intuition, what would you say is the first step in them being able to reconnect back with that?
That's a great question. Practice, but make it playful. I would really recommend playful practice. We each have different guiding authorities, right? So, human design can be a great way to understand, how your intuition can speak to you. Like, for example, being a sacral authority, I really listen to my gut. Okay. And I just want to playfully practice. So I'm on my scooter and I'm like, do I want to turn left or right? And I just ask myself, I ask my intuition. And maybe I have extra time, so I'm willing to, go either direction. And my intuition tells me go left. And I'm like, well, that's silly because my house is right. But okay, let's just try it. So I go left and I'm like, okay, where should I go? Well, I feel like I should try that green building. Okay, so then I go into the green building and then I run into a friend that I hadn't seen in 3 years and didn't even know it was on the island. And it's like, we're not just going to jump right into understanding the intuition's language if we've never heard it before.
Mm.
And we're also not going to be able to just jump into trusting it if we haven't given it an opportunity to prove itself to us.
Mm.
So, as much as you can, just playfully practicing and giving it the opportunity to prove itself to you and giving you the opportunity to learn its language and what its language feels like, because it will prove itself to you and it just feels better and better.
Thank you for that. And that's something that I really had to sit with for when I learned that my human design, my intuition comes through splenic.
Mm,
So for me, that's like fast hits, but I
mm,
really didn't resonate with that. And everyone kept saying like, try it, try it. And I was trying it and I was like, I don't know. I still don't know.
mm,
And I think, the word playful is such a beautiful way to do it, because I did it in like really quite tough, challenging ways. Like, I'm going to spend this amount of money to do this so that I can do this. And it was not right, because I was like, that it just wasn't the right way. But also that taught me a lesson, because I was
mm,
like, okay, that was me not listening to my body and what my body was saying. So Yes, listen to it playfully. Thank you
Yes.
for that. I'll take that away.
Okay.
As we come to the end of our conversation, is there anything that you want to touch on that we haven't mentioned today?
Hmm. I
I
would
have so
just,
many more questions, but like I know I'm just being conscious of your time. So
yeah.
anything you
Yeah,
want to share?
I appreciate that. Yeah, I would definitely just say, kind of in theme with everything we've talked about today, that if there's anything in this call or in this podcast that hasn't resonated with you or anyone listening, to just leave it. Again, I don't believe that we're all supposed to have the same truth. I think that we're supposed to have our own individual truth. There is not one healer. We are all our own healers. So if it doesn't resonate with you and you don't feel like it's your truth, then toss it and take what does resonate. And that's really enough. And that's
Mm,
just, again, the playful way of connecting with our own intuition. I think that where religion has gotten skewed throughout time is that we're each meant to have our own individual revelations. And then somebody takes their individual revelation and starts to teach it to the world because it became something so powerful for them. It gave them such wonderful gifts and insights. But then they're like, here, everybody follow me. Look what helped me. But really, truly, we're all meant to have our own religion, our own revelation. And what a beautiful discovery that is, to go on that journey and find your own way of being like, wow, look at this thing that healed me and helped me.
mm,
So, don't, if something doesn't resonate, let it go and really just find your own experience. We're all here to support
yeah.
each other, but your truth is meant to be your truth.
That's so beautiful. And what's coming to me is like we're all like it's like eating food. Like you might like eating pho noodles, and I might want to have soba noodles today. Like and
Yes.
also like you might eat meat because that resonates with your body, but I might not, and vice versa. So yeah, take everything with what resonates with you, what feels right in your body, and what doesn't out. Let it go, what doesn't serve you.
Mhm.
Thank you for that. What's one piece of advice that you'd give someone who's lost and trying to find their purpose?
Mm. Honestly, I'd say it's probably right in front of you.
Mm,
It's right in front of you. I would genuinely think that our purpose is to be. It is to exist. It is this life that you're living and the full spectrum of it. So if you're really struggling and having a bad day, that's not because you've done something wrong. That's not because you're missing something or you haven't found your purpose yet. Experiencing the bad day, experiencing the good day, experiencing the chocolate cake, experiencing fasting, all of these is the purpose of life, is to be here and to experience the full spectrum. That being said, I will not negate that or devalidate the fact that we have things that we do want to create. We all have things that we want to bring into this world, and that is really special, but that's not necessarily your purpose. That's just your joy. That's just your joy. So just, if you're looking for that thing, follow your joy. But if you're looking for
mm,
your purpose, it's right in front of you.
mm. So beautifully said. Thank you, Heather.
Yeah.
Where can people find more about you and the amazing offerings and work that you're doing in the world?
Mm. Well, so one of my main resources is going to be my YouTube channel. I am just constantly channeling on there and offering free, just plethoras of free different healing modalities. I have meditations, guided practices of how you could heal yourself, insights, channelings, all of that stuff is, again, is just a free resource for you guys to walk your own path, what resonates with you. All the research and all the travel and all the study that I've done, it's just right there for you to use. Another great resource is I have all my films on my website, which is just my full name.com. If you want, you can look at my TikTok. Again, it's just my name. I'm kind of constantly adding little insights and little channelings. That's like a mini YouTube. And then my Instagram is a little bit more personal and creative, but you can follow that as well. But yeah, all my
Amazing.
socials.
So it's heatherballish.com.
Yes, exactly.
And
Yes.
all of those will be the socials will be in the description below in the show description. So be sure to find Heather there. You've also got a book that you're writing.
Yes.
When is that coming? I can't wait to read it.
It should be finished by the end of the summer is the goal, but with finding publishing is kind of my next step. But I honestly have just such faith. Like that one is one of the things that really feels like one of my biggest joys, purposes, you could say, coming together. And it really is about all of this. It's about the classes that I teach, connecting with your own gifts. It's about the shift that we've talked about today, quantum physics, all of these different layers, manifestation, law of attraction, all of these kind of things layering on top of each other, how to connect with your guides, all kind of piled into one book. So I'm
Do
very
you
excited.
channel through your book?
Oh, yeah. Nothing has ever been easier for me to do than to write this book.
Wow.
I wasn't even trying to write a book. I was just trying to meditate one day, and I started writing a book. So
I love
and
that.
this is now my normal occurrence. I just try to meditate, but every day I end up writing more. So
Oh, I love that. That's so beautiful. And are you doing your online classes at the moment?
I will start another round in November.
Amazing. So if you're
Mhm.
listening, be sure to go to one of those classes. They are so fascinating and open up a whole world of possibility. And you also have innate wellness as well. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so innate wellness is actually the beginning of birthing energetic wellness products. And so, you've experienced some of them. I have these roll on essential oils that are all made
Yeah.
for different experiences. There's manifestation, love, spirit realm connection, protection, these things. And I channel like different energetic frequencies into them. But beyond that, I'm kind of expanding that into a whole wellness line that's not just roll on essential oils, but they're products for internal and external that are combining like physical wellness with spiritual and energetic wellness. So, yeah, I'm very much
And
looking forward to
they
bringing that out.
smell absolutely incredible. I'm actually really sad that I don't have two of them anymore. But I've got the Spirit Realm one, and I feel like that one is the one that needs to be with me at the moment. So,
Yes. Yes, beautiful.
yeah, I cannot wait to get more of them. Do you ship them out internationally? Is that something that you're planning to do?
Yes. Oh, yeah. They'll be shipped internationally. We're still waiting for all of our permits, but it should be by September. You should be able to
That's so exciting.
buy anything
Oh, I'm so
internationally.
excited. It's going to be
Yeah.
everywhere in the world. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. There's one last question I'd love to ask you. And what's
Yeah.
one takeaway that you want the listener to leave with?
Just really knowing how powerful you are. The whole point of everything that I do and create and share is to really remind us that as humans, we are already divine. I spent my whole life trying to connect with the spirit realm, and I thought I had to leave my body in order to do that. I needed to, have one foot in this realm, one foot in the next. But really, your body is the doorway. This human experience is the doorway to divinity, it is the doorway to connecting with our spirit guides. We go in meditation to connect with them. When we channel, we bring them in. You are already divine in this human essence. You don't need to shift, change, or leave it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Heather. You
No.
are such a beacon of light, as your purpose of in your human design is the vessel of love. You are just
Bless you.
such this. Oh, you are so divine. I love being in your presence. And I
Same.
have so many more questions. I can't wait to have you on again to ask even more. And dive into some of those stories. I want to hear some of those stories that you've experienced because they are so fascinating to hear. And I've learned so much from you. So thank you so much for sharing your voice and your wisdom. It's been a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you. It's been absolutely amazing being together. So I really appreciate the space you've created. It's been
You're
divine.
welcome. And thank you so much for listening. And I hope this helps you or someone else to shine bright. If you have enjoyed this episode, please like this video and share it with someone that you feel might need to hear it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that button and comment below your thoughts on this episode. What resonated with you, some experiences that you've had, maybe some psych experiences, and share your voice. I love reading all of your comments and replying to them. So I'm sending so much love. Until next time, see you in the next episode.